Well, good morning everybody. Welcome back to Firewood at the Furnace. If it's your first time here, my name is Brad. Welcome to the channel. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk chainsaw chains and how to figure out what size chain works for your saw when it's time to replace your chain. If you're good at sharpening your chains, or if you have somebody that can sharpen your chains for you, you can get a good bit of life out of a chain if you sharpen it properly. Several sharpenings, but eventually that tooth gets real short and it's time to replace the chain. And there's some different ways to tell. There's some easy ways and there's some not so easy ways to tell what size chain you need when we're talking about length, pitch, and gauge. Now, I'm no expert, but I've learned a lot since I've been doing this, so I figured I'd share some of the knowledge with you, and we'll even do some cutting later on today. So stick around. Now, before we get going here this morning, let me go ahead and acknowledge what a lot of my viewers have already noticed, and that's the shirt that I'm wearing today. The Midwest Firewood Frenzy is coming close. It is on June 11th in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. If you don't know what that is an event organized by the Back 40 Firewood channel, where he gets all the firewood woodhounds and all the people that are interested in firewood, gets them together for a day of fun and entertainment, camaraderie, meet other people that we see on YouTube here. So that's coming up on June 11th. Unfortunately for me, I'm not able to attend, but I did go ahead and grab a shirt because I definitely want to support that event and get out to that event in the next year or so. With both kids in travel ball, like you all know, my weekends are pretty busy and we're tied up, so I'm not able to make that work this year, but I'm hoping those of you that are going, I hope you have a great time. I hope you have great weather and get to meet a lot of people. I know I sure want to meet a lot of you guys that interact with me on this channel as well. So let's get right into it. So I received an email a few weeks back from a company called Hypa, and they offered me to try out their chainsaw chains. All the chains that I've used in the past have either been genuine steel chains or Oregon chains. That's the only two I've ever used. However, all of my saws, the 360, the 460 clone, and the 660 clone, all run 3/8 050 chain. When I recently purchased the new 261, it comes with a 325 pitch chain and an 063 gauge. So it's a different chain for me. Like I told you last week, I ordered the new 2-in-1 sharpener with the correct round files in it to match this chain. But I figured I needed a couple extra chains for this saw, so I had them send me one of theirs. Now I'm going to open up this chain and we're going to put it on this saw and we're going to run this saw later today. I'm actually thinking about getting the skid loader out and picking up some of these ash logs over here so I don't have to bend over and buck. I can stand up and buck. So we're going to get into that, but before we do that, I'm going to go over what I've learned about sizing chains for your saw and how this works. All right, so the first thing we'll talk about is length. If you're purchasing a new chain for your saw, you need to know the length of the chain, obviously, and the easiest way to do that is by looking right on the bar. This is a fairly new saw, so it's fairly easy to see. If you look on the right side of the saw, on the bar, right up closest to the power head, I'll get you zoomed in here, you can see that it says it's a 20-inch bar, 063 gauge, and 325 pitch. So that's the easiest way to tell the length, pitch, and gauge of your bar. But there are other ways to tell. If you've used your saw for a while, that's probably going to be worn off and really hard to read. So I'll show you some ways that you can figure it out if you can't read the bar. All right, we're kind of going to go in order from the easiest measurement to the most challenging measurement. And the easiest one is going to be the length of your bar. All you got to do is measure with a tape measure from the tip of your bar back to the front of the power head. What you want to be measuring is the usable length of the bar. You don't want to measure this part back here where it attaches to the power head, just the usable length of the bar, and we're right at 20 inches there. So this is a 20-inch bar. Now, if your measurement comes up a little short, let's say it's 18 and 3/4, 19 and 1/4, what you want to do is round up to the next closest even number, because all chainsaw bars come in even number lengths. So just round up to the next closest even number. Say a 20, so this is a 24-inch bar here on this 460 clone, and we'll take a measurement on this, and the measurement on this is about 23.5. So we'll round up to 24 inches. That's a 24-inch chain. So that's the easiest way to measure the length of your bar. Let's move on to how to figure out the gauge. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take this, the bar off of this saw and take the chain off, because we're gonna be putting the new Hypa chain on there to see how it cuts today in a little bit. This is the first saw I've had, this 261 that I bought recently, that has the captive bar nuts. I really like that. But we'll go ahead and take this off. You should be wearing gloves. You got a sharp chain like this one is, it will get you if you're not careful. So we'll take that chain off. And when we're talking about gauge, we're talking about the groove that runs down the center of the bar that the drive links for the chain run in. When I say drive links, I'm talking about the top of the chain. Here is your cutting tooth. These are all cutting teeth on the top, and the little, looks like shark, upside down shark fins on the bottom of the chain are your drive links. That's what runs inside the bar, and that's what drives your chain. So when we're talking about the gauge, is the width of this groove. And an old man once taught me the best way to check the groove of your chain, or groove of your bar, is to use a quarter, a penny, and a dime. So we know that this is a 063 gauge. So that correlates with a quarter. And what you want to do is you want to slide the coin in, and it should fit snugly but without resistance. So that's sitting right in there. I didn't have to force it in. It sits in there nice and snug. So we know that's 063. Now if you take a penny, this will be 058 is what a penny would measure. 058 chains I don't think are very common. The two most common ones are 063 and 050. But if you put the penny in here, it's not going to fit snugly because it's 058, which is smaller than 063. And when you let go of it, it's just going to fall out. Same thing with the dime. The dime is even thinner. This would be your 050. And obviously if you put that in the saw, it slides right out as well. So the quarter is the 063. It sits in there nice and snug without forcing it. So that's another way to check your gauge. One thing that I did fail to mention on checking your gauge is you want to take a small flathead screwdriver or a tool to make sure that this groove is nice and cleaned out, that you don't have any gunk in there, which may give you a false measurement. So make sure that's nice and clean inside there, and then you can do the coin test, as I like to call it. Let's move on to pitch, and the pitch is probably the most challenging of all, just because it's really hard to get a good measurement. Now the way that I've been told to check pitch is by measuring the distance between 3 rivets. Now the rivets is what holds the chain together and connects all the links together, and you're supposed to measure the distance between 3 of the rivets, divide that by 2, which will give you your pitch. Now if you've got the length of your chain and the gauge of your chain, the pitch will be the most challenging part. So a tape measure is kind of hard to use to get an accurate measurement on that, but if you know what you're looking for, 3/8 or 325, you should be able to figure that one out just by doing that measurement and dividing by 2. All right, now obviously the internet is still your friend, so a Google search will help you tremendously trying to figure out what size chain you need. Just type in the make and model of your chain, and you can get some good information online too. So as a last resort, you know, that chain came untangled pretty easily out of the bag. Normally you're fighting with that. So this is the chain I got from Hypa, and like I said, that they contacted me through email and offered to send me a chain to test out and review for them. So obviously I'm not going to be able to do the complete review today because I want to see how well it sharpens, what the hardness is on the cutting tooth, and just see how it all works out after I sharpen it a couple times. But out of the box today, we're going to put it on the 261. We're going to run it through some ash and see how it performs. Now, Hypa did want me to let you all know that they are running a sale. It's running from May 26th through June 3rd, where if you buy one chain, you can get one 2-pack of chains, you can get a second one for half off. Now these chains in particular, for this 261, it runs $38.99 for a 2-pack. So you're getting 2 chains for $38.99. And if you use the deal that's going on through June 3rd, you can get a second one for half off, which means you would have 4 chains at basically $29.25 each. So that's a pretty good deal that they're running. And I'll put a link in the description of the video, and I'll actually put a tag at the top of your screen here to a video that you can watch about their chains if you're interested. And we'll see how this chain runs. Just real quick before we start cutting, I figured I'd give you a tour around the yard here real quick. We've got a lot of stuff cleaned up in the past week or so. This is between right behind the trailer here, where we've been cutting up the cherry and the big maple, and we've still got that oak sitting there to split. But all the wood that was laying in this aisleway here that I said I wanted to get cleaned up, it's all gone. We've gotten all that cleaned up. We go down here between the next row, and we've got all those logs that were laying there done. And we come down here between the other row, and we're all cleared out here as well. So that goal has been accomplished. The next goal is to fill this last row before the end of June, and it's going to be filled with all this ash, because that'll be ready to sell by fall for sure. We're going to get the saw fired up. I might get the skid loader out, because I know a lot of you have been telling me that when I'm bucking logs, I no longer need to bend over. So I've got a question. And my question is, do I use the forks to hold the logs up while I buck, or do I get the grapple to hold the logs up while I buck? I'm thinking I'm going to try the grapple first and try to hold the log on one end with just one claw of the grapple, so that I can start on the end and come all the way up and not have to worry about the width of the bucket repositioning. So I know with the forks you kind of have to cut from both ends to keep it balanced so it doesn't flip off. If I can grab a log with one side of the bucket and the grapple, I'm going to try that first and see how it works out. But we'll try this Hypa chain out on the 261 and see how many of these logs we can get bucked up. All right, let's see what this Hypa saw chain will do and how we like sawing off the grapple. cutting off of the grapple is definitely going to be a game changer for me. I think, you know, this little piece that's left in the grapple, I may have to drop and cut it one more time on it, maybe on the ground. But this was one of the shorter logs in the pile over here, and I think overall, if I can pick these logs up and cut these rounds without bending over and fighting my way, climbing over stuff, tripping over stuff, it's going to make my life a lot easier. So I'll show you here. I didn't tighten the chain down real tight initially because I don't like to run a chain that's too tight. But now that I've run through that log, it has stretched a little bit already. So we'll tighten that up and keep cutting. All right, so I learned a couple things here that I'm going to go over with you real quick. First thing about the grapple is that if the log is a diameter smaller than the radius of the grapple, you really gotta be precise on getting it between the two teeth of the grapple and the edge of the bucket. Otherwise, it kind of wants to spin and roll around and get loose in there, and then because all the weight is hanging off of one end, it'll flip out the side. So it's going to take me some time to play with that, get a feel for that, and I don't know, I may switch out to the forks and see if I like that any better, you know, going from one end to the other to keep it balanced. But right now I've already got the grapple hooked up to the skid loader, so I'm going to continue using that and see if I, with a little bit of experience, if I can get any better with it. Now, on to the hype of chain. If there's one thing that I've always told you since this channel started, is that I will always be honest with you, and I will always be straightforward. So if I'm being totally honest, the hype of chain is okay. I do not feel like it is running as good as a new Oregon or steel chain. I feel like right out of the box, it felt like I had cut a half the tank or a tank of gas with it already. So I'll be interested to see once I sharpen it myself with the 2-in-1 sharpener, if that makes any kind of a difference. But right out of the box, I think for the price difference, I will continue to use Oregon chains or steel chains. So I appreciate Hypa sending this to me, and I think that if you're in the market for a budget chain, or you know, you need multiple chains, you can get these at a decent price. But as with many things, I think you get what you pay for, and that will, as of right now, that's my review of the Hypa chain. I'm not disappointed with it at all. It's cutting well. I just feel like not as well as the other chains that I've used. So I'm going to keep digging through these logs with the skid loader and bucking them up, and we'll see how much we can get done here. All right, so I'll show you what I did here, and I will give you my final opinion on the Hypa chain. Here's what we knocked out. This is all ash. That's 2 tanks of fuel through the 261 here. Some big rounds there in the back, and 2 rows, pretty good size rounds here. I did have one short oak log that we bucked up right there, but made some nice room. Coming around the rows here now, this is starting to open back up, so I'll be able to get my truck in. What my plan will be to take the dump trailer, and now that I have room to back through here, because before you can see where the skid loader tracks are, it was just wide enough to get the skid loader through because all this was all logs. So now that I've got that opened up a little wider, I can get the truck through here. My plan will be to back the dump trailer right up to these ash rounds, split right into the trailer, and then I'll be able to back the trailer right over here to this last row and stack right out of the dump trailer. Rather than using the little yard trailer that I get, you know, about 1/3 of a cord per load, I can throw a little over 2 cord in the dump trailer loose and just keep splitting and fill the dump trailer up and then get stacking, because that row's got to be filled by the end of June, so I can hold up to my little wager that I made with you all on YouTube. Speaking of wagers, don't forget that tomorrow night is the Thirsty Thursday live stream. It's the last Thursday of May. So we'll all be getting together tomorrow night for a night of camaraderie, a night of conversation, discussion. We'll throw a few jokes at each other, have a few drinks together, and just talk about firewood and what's going on in the world. So if you're able to, it's 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here on Firewood at the Furnace YouTube channel. We'll be live at 8 p.m. and I hope to see you there. So as far as the Hypa chain goes, I ran the whole first tank of fuel through the 261 with that chain, and like I told you a little earlier in the video, it's okay. I don't feel like it's as sharp as an Oregon chain or a steel chain, but it's just okay. But what I did do is when it ran out of fuel, I switched chains back to the Oregon chain that I sharpened myself with the 2-in-1 sharpener. It's probably on its 3rd sharpening right now, and started using that and immediately noticed an improvement. So a chain that I have sharpened, I feel like outperformed that Hypa chain new out of the box. So you can weigh it out for yourself. I'm not trying to sway you to do one thing or another. I'm telling you my personal opinion, and you can research that. They got a sale going on, like I said. If you buy 1 2-pack of chains, you get the second 2-pack at half off. So you'll get 4 chains at a pretty good price, and you know, that's a decision you make for yourself, and you know what you do as far as how much cutting you do, what saws you're using, and you know what your budget is. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the beginning of the video when I was trying to explain how to size your chains for your saw. A lot of you probably already know a lot of that stuff, but I know that there's a lot of people that watch the channel that are they go out on the weekends and cut a little bit of firewood for themselves, and I'm hopeful that that was educational for those kind of people. But we're tearing into this ash pile. We're really going to get aggressive on that, and I'd like to get that cleared out here in the next couple of weeks. So that's the goal for there, and I'll see you all tomorrow night on the live stream. Until then, have a great day. We'll see you next time.